Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's been a few days because I've been busy with the draft for the last few days, and then also a good friend of mine who is studying in another country came back for a few days to visit yesterday, so I spent time with a friend of mine, so I couldn't even do a preview video because of that. But yeah, I'm back and we had Liège, Bastogne, Liège today. The fourth of the 5 monuments, the last of the spring classics. Soon we will have the first of the 3 Grand Tours, but yeah, the spring classics are my personal favorite time of the year in the cycling season. I just love those one-day races. There's nothing wrong with the Grand Tours, but in my opinion, these one-day races are just something very special. And today this race offered quite a bit. Vogelsang finally got his first monument. He was waiting a long time. He had really good results this season from the start of his campaign till now. A lot of good placings. He won a few general classifications in stage races, but in the classics he was beaten by Alaphilippe and Van der Poel quite often. And today he was the big favorite together with Alaphilippe, but he pulled it off because the Frenchman just did not have the legs today, and also because his team played it a little bit wrong, to be quite honest. But yeah, let's get into it, why and how this happened, how it went down. So the race started, and other than the last monument, we this time had a break of the day that got up to 9 minutes actually. And in that break there was Lilian Colmejane, and he, so I thought, was the strongest rider of that breakaway, but it turned out he was actually the weakest guy of them. He was actually the second rider of that group to be dropped later on. But yeah, that group got quite a big advantage, and then it was Quickstep who started to really up the tempo. They actually split the peloton with 100 kilometers to go, it was, I think. At that moment we already had abandons of Dan Martin and Alejandro Valverde, both ill it seemed, still not recovered. Valverde during the week at Flash Wallon actually said he swallowed a bee. I don't know if it had anything to do with that. But yeah, the world champion climbed off his bike. Age is showing more and more that he is not what he used to be. Could be one of the last few seasons of Valverde. And yeah, we'll have to see how that continues. Quite disappointing spring campaign from Dan Martin, who will now focus on the Tour de France. But yeah, those two actually favorite riders for the day, with even more than 100 kilometers to go, already out of the race. And now Quickstep was pushing hard and splitting the peloton for the first time. And I thought that was a positive thing, because I feared at that point that if we have large groups of riders on this rainy course, it would cause crashes, lots of crashes. I thought that was not the case actually. We had a few crashes, yeah, that happens, but not as much as I thought we would happen. We had a crash of Robert Geesink, who got taken to the hospital, among others. But yeah, so the breakaway with 90 kilometers to go, I think it was down to 2 minutes. But Quickstep was losing riders, and yeah, let me check my notes. Yeah, the crash of Geesink was with 80 kilometers to go, and then with 70 kilometers to go to the finish line, this time back in Liège in the city center, the break was already caught. and the peloton by that moment only had about 40-50 riders, maybe a little bit less than that. So Quickstep did the damage at that point, and with 65 to go, we had an attack of Kanger and Tano Kangat and Omar Freire, and Anacona and Cosnefroy, they chased them. Then a few others tried to go, and then we had a really interesting group, because that group included also later on Albassini, De La Cruz, Caruso, Verona, De Marchi, and Björk Lambrecht. And if you listen closely to the names, there was not a single rider of De Koning Quickstep in that group. And that was very important for the rest of the race, because of the favorite teams, they were the only one missing, so they had to chase. They had to put 3 riders to the front, work hard. Yeah, the gap stayed between 30 and 50 seconds for the most part, but still De Koning used all of their manpower, and after that break was caught, finally with 28 kilometers to go, so they chased for quite a bit of amount of time. They only had Enric Mas left, and Gilbert was already struggling at the back end of the group. So Alaphilippe was basically with more than 25 kilometers on his own, while Astana still had 6 riders in that group of favorites, peloton, whatever you want to call it, at that stage of the race. And yeah, then with 26 to go, it was Conrad who attacked the now lone leader Tanel Kangat, who was the only one staying away of that group. He was later on joined by 2 more riders, but wasn't meant to be, because Benedetti helped the chase. Valens and Impey tried to come across, and they actually for a short amount of time had a group of 4. But once we entered the last climb of the day, it was Astana who used 5 riders up for Fuglsang in a span of only 8 kilometers. They all emptied their tank for him, chased the breakaway back, and yeah, then the magic show began. On the last climb of the day, Fuglsang attacked. Only Woods and David Formolo were able to follow. Alaphilippe cracked at that moment badly. It was basically a repeat of the World Championships of last year, when he was just fading towards the end of the climb, couldn't follow, and yeah, that was basically it, because Fuglsang is a very strong rider this spring. He showed that once again. No one could stop him. He rode them off his wheel when the road was, the last 2 remaining, he rode off his wheel when the road wasn't actually going uphill, but on the flats he distanced them. So quite the performance by the Astana captain. I'm excited to see what he can do at the Tour de France later on. Alaphilippe showed that he is human after all, that he can lose a race, and that he's not winning every single one-day race. But yeah, Astana played that very well, because they did not have to chase for 40 kilometers like De Koning did. I don't know if that would have made any difference if Quickstep had a few more riders left at the end, because Alaphilippe himself seems like he did not have the legs on this day. He, just like Fuglsang, has a very long campaign before his first break. Both of them are taking now their break before they start their preparation for the Tour de France. One for the overall, one for stage wins and the polka dot jersey. So they have different ambitions, but they still want to be in top shape in July again. So now they will be taking a break. And yeah, but let's take a look at the rest of the top 10. So like I said, Formolo and Woods were dropped, but Formolo still held on to 2nd place, and his teammate Schachmann got 3rd. So once again, a really great result by Bora Hansgrohe. Then in 4th place we had actually Yates, then Woods, then the 22-year-old Frenchman David Gaudu of Groupama FDJ, really promising rider. Recently we had a lot of 22-year-olds who impress. But yeah, Godu in a good placing. Then it was actually Mikel Landa showing great signs of form. Also Nibali was there, so interesting to see how well he is doing ahead of the Giro d'Italia, because he did not have any really great results so far this season, and people were questioning if he would be in form for this Grand Tour. But yeah, seems like he's getting ready just at the right time. Then the last two placing in the top 10, we had Dylan Teuns and Wout Poels. So Alaphilippe didn't even make the top 10. I looked it up. He finished in 16th place at the end. Another group behind, so actually only in the third group on the road in the end, and even lost the sprint for, I think it was 11th or 12th place of that group. So yeah, he was quite done. What are the conclusions of Liège, Bastogne Liège of this classic season? Well, Astana has shown finally that they now not only can win stage races, but Vogelsang has showed that he is strong enough to pull off one-day races as well. He came very close a few times before that, but now he actually finishes on the top step. He was third at Amstel, second at Flèche Wallonne, and now takes the first step at this race. So Astana must be quite happy that they win this race once again. They've won it before with Vinokurov and Iglinski in their time, but now Vogelsang is actually only the second Danish rider to win a monument. Before they had Ralf Sørensen, who won also Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and 4 years after that he won the Ronde van Vlaanderen, if I remember correctly. They said it on TV. But yeah, Vogelsang only the second Danish rider to take a monument home. And what's quite surprising is he is a late bloomer, because the last few years he was always decent in Grand Tours, but his classics results never indicated that he would be that strong. But his 2019 campaign was, just like the whole Astana team, out of this world. And some people tend to go to look for doping in that case, always pointing at Vinokurov and his career and stuff like that. But in my opinion, even though it's possible that there is still doping in the peloton, I think more than that, it's actually tactics. Because Astana has started to race the same way as the Koenig Quick-Step this year, maybe even last year, but the results do come this year. And today also they showed, we save our guys, we let the Koenig do the chasing, we let them do the work, and then we are fresh in the end. And yeah, with 18 kilometers to go, they still had 6 riders in a 30 to 40 man group. That's just insane. They saved all their guys up, did not work, and then for the final push to lead Vogelsang into the final hill, they did that perfectly. It was almost a lead out. One rider pulling for a kilometer, and then the next guy up, and so on. And then Vogelsang had to just finish it off because he had a very strong team. Not to diminish his ride or any other ride of Astana this season, but most of the time they are winning because they are a strong team, not because they have the single strongest rider. Yes, Vogelsang today was incredibly strong, especially that solo, but he was also helped quite a lot by his very strong teammates. And yeah, Astana have found a way. So, like I said before, I can't say that there is no doping in cycling, but if you look closely, you can also see that Astana is tactically doing a great job, while today De Koenig didn't. They tried to split the peloton, they missed the breakaway, and then Alaphilippe didn't have the legs in the end, so that's 3 things working against them today. Not the performance they were looking for. Then a team on the rise, not just as many wins as those two teams, but a close third team is actually Bora Hansgrohe. And today they had two riders on the podium, so they must be happy with their spring campaign, even though Sagan was, for his standards at least, disappointing. Yeah, he wasn't even on the start line because after disappointing results in Amstel and Flash, he decided, you know what, I'm done for this spring campaign. Let's focus on the Tour and do well there. So all that preparation, starting later, being not in perfect shape for the cobbles, because he wanted to do well at this new finish at Liège, Bastogne, Liège, and then not even starting. Peter Sagan, that was a disappointing year for him, even though his results for most other riders were quite decent. They were not up to his standard, and he has to question his approach this year. Maybe he should go back to his usual thing, do well in the cobble classics. Yes, he's a very versatile rider, but for him it did not work out. For Alaphilippe it did work out, because even though he did not win Liège, but he won Sanremo, he won Strade Bianche. He started his season on purpose earlier and won the races he targeted, while Sagan didn't even start the race he targeted in January when he said he wanted to do well at Liège. But yeah, so who else? Like I said, Yates is in good form. Yates, Woods, Nibali, Landa, they are in great shape for the upcoming Grand Tours. So that's nice to see. What else is there to say as a conclusion? Yeah, actually this was the last race as Team Sky. They will now be Team Ineos. And for that they were quite disappointing today. Kwiatkowski said he was planning for this race all winter. This was the race he wanted to do well in, and yet he wasn't even the best rider of his team at the end of the day. He already struggled at Flèche Wallonne, which was a rare sight for me because he started the climb at the front, and usually Kwiatkowski is a rider who does not overpower his opponents, but he rather outsmarts them. And in that case, he tried to overpower them. He tried to go on the front and distance them that way, and that is just not his way. So he did not ride that smartly enough. And also today he did not have the legs. It was actually Poles who got the better of him, who already won this race in the past for Team Sky, while Kwiatkowski did not. But yeah, so last race as Team Sky, quite disappointing, but they were never the monument team. They were always the stage race and Grand Tour team, and there they have been quite well this week. It was a smaller race, let's say it that way, but not of the importance of the monuments. But yeah, they still did a great performance over there. While in the classics, Sky once again not with the result they were searching for. Now it's Team Ineos, the name they will be riding under, and there will be quite a lot of protesters because of their founder, of the boss of Ineos, of the company. But yeah, that's a story for another time. Team Sky or Team Ineos, we will maybe talk about that when the Giro is starting. Yeah, like I said before, really great result by Gaudu, who is impressing me more and more. Also Lambrecht, he was in that breakaway of 10 riders for quite a while, some for today. And now we have to question Lotto's tactics again, because once again they did not place a rider in a really high position at the end, while Lambrecht seemed to have the legs, but once again he attacked, and at the end it was pointless because Quickstep and later on Bora brought that move back. So we already questioned Lotto's tactics to begin with in the last Ardennes Classic. Now again, sending up their probably strongest rider. Yeah, they also had Tim Wellens, who was later in a group, but yeah, the attacks so far do not work out for Lotto, and maybe they should just wait for the real favorites to attack and just go with them and hope to outsprint them in the end. I don't know. Lambrecht is quite an exciting rider to watch, but yeah, he seems to be too impatient, in my opinion. Maybe he lacks the maturity. If we look at, as example, Alaphilippe, until 24, 25 years of age, he was not considered a winner. He got a lot of second places and never seemed to finish it off. He only won, I think, 4 races in his first 4 years as a pro or so. And then last year he started winning. Last year he had 7, I think. No, how many was it? 12 it was in the end. 12 wins in the end. Now he's already at 9. So in 2 seasons he has already more than 20 victories, while before he basically won only 1 race a season, always showing promise but never finishing it off. So maybe we can point also to Lambrecht that he still has to learn that maybe sometimes attack isn't the best option and waiting for the final is a better option. Like Vogelsang did today, he waited and waited and waited for the final climb actually of the race, then attacked, almost crashed at the descent. Yeah, almost forgot that. That was a really insane save by Vogelsang. It looked like his bike was in the air. It was crazy. He was sliding from left to right, from right to left, and he did not fall down. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh god, there goes his race. But yeah, that was quite a almost heartbreaking moment for the Danish rider. But yeah, he pulled it off. He saved this and got his first monument. And yeah, I think that's it for me for today. Until then, I'm out.